Mark Schipper is part of the Fifth Down college football website, and I'm going to let him tell the story. But, Mark, thank you for being with us. You're on the UGA campus right now, which I always love to be. Tell us, as we say hello to you, what you have been doing the last 8 weeks. Good afternoon.
Yeah, hey, Paul, how are you? I'm somewhere near Sanford Stadium at the moment, as you said, on the University of Georgia campus. And this fall, to answer your question, I've been on what I've kind of been calling the American Odyssey. I've been all over this country going to college football games for the purposes of writing a book on college football and American history and how the two are kind of inseparable from each other.
So, by the way, that's a fantastic subject, and I can't wait to read it. And a year or so from now, we'll be hopefully talking about that. So tell us how you went about it and how you picked the spots.
Yeah, the way I picked the spots is I wanted to cover all the regions. College football is kind of our great American folk game. It's tied to the land, it's tied to history, it's tied to identity. So I wanted to get all over the country and use these games, generally speaking, historical rivalries, as jumping off points for the book and the discussion about how these games relate to American history, how they came to fruition and why they're still relevant today, and why college football is worth so much money to the television networks, why it draws such big crowds, and why it's such a special and unique thing.
So, Mark, you started out in California. You obviously have been there again. Tell us what has, and I realize we'll all read about this at some point, but what has stood out to you? What the experiences are all different, but I'm sure when you've gotten to a few campuses, you have really been able to soak in what college football is all about.
Yeah, you know, they're very different and very much the same. The fascinating thing is college football is all about arguments and debates and discussions. It's kind of a beauty pageant at times. And people, I think, sometimes get tied up in regional supremacy and who's better than who and who does what better than what. But when you go to these college football games, what you find are the similarities, the folk traditions, the way they're tied to locality, the way people identify with the teams and the colleges, and the way they all go to the stadiums on Saturdays and go through their kind of tribalized rituals and sing their songs and dance with their bands and celebrate their teams. And so the regional flavors are fascinating. They're all different, yet similar. So I think that is kind of what I expected when I set out, but it's been spectacular to get there in person and experience the way everybody celebrates these kind of fall festivals every year.
Now, you've done a lot in your previous life, but how familiar with some of the things that you have seen were you?
Well, I call myself a college football historian and aficionado. I love this game. I've loved it since I was a small child. So some of it's been a little surreal. It's been stuff I felt like I've experienced already but hadn't. So to see it in person is kind of it's almost strange to adapt to actually being there. Television, and the reason television makes so much money is it does a sensational job. You go back to Roone Arledge at ABC Sports and the way they started covering college football, they really understood this game, the bands, the cheerleaders, the pageantry, the emotion that's tied up in it. And you really get a great experience of what this game is on television. It is better in person, of course, but for me, it's been wonderful to affirm this kind of stuff that I've been experiencing all my life and to say I was there.
I'm hearing a distinct Chicago accent, or I think I am, in your. So, are you a Bears fan in your previous life?
No, sir. No, sir. I was born in Iowa City.
Oh,
I grew up in Minneapolis, and I was a Vikings fan. But I've lived in Chicago the last 10 years, so there's no doubt some of it has rubbed off on me. So maybe I should work on that a little bit.
That's okay. Well, yeah, Iowa to Chicago, it's not that far. Let me ask you, in terms of, this is obviously a show that is based in the South, and we live in these waters. What have you seen? I know you've been to a couple of, you're in Athens right now. I know you've been to, I think, Tuscaloosa. Where else have you been, and what have you seen?
Yeah, it's been great for me to get into the South because the South is, one of the premier destinations for college football in this country. The people down there get it. They love it. It's an important part of their yearly calendar. So I've been to Fayetteville for Arkansas, Texas, which was a sensational time. I was at the Cotton Bowl for Oklahoma, Texas, which was an incredible game. I was in Baton Rouge for Florida LSU, which was another sensational game. I was in Tuscaloosa for Ole Miss, Alabama, and then obviously the cocktail party, if we're still calling it that. I know we're not, but I am, this weekend. And it's really been cool for me. I have limited experience down south, most of it in Florida, which is some family stuff. So for me to get into these college towns in the South and talk to the people and go to the restaurants and be there on game day has been a really great experience for me. And I look forward to writing about what college football is in the South when I get going on the book.
Yeah, we've been to a couple of the same locales. By the way, I hate to break this to you, but you've been officially fined for calling that game down in Florida the cocktail party. That is verboten, not allowed here.
Yeah, I hope I make enough money on the book to be able to pay that fine.
So what? We'll help you out. We'll do a GoFundMe.
Awesome.
How does? I mean, I act like I don't know how this process goes, but so you complete the tour, and then
Yeah.
you start writing, or are you writing as you go along?
I'm doing a lot of writing as I go, and I need to do more. One of the ways I'm trying to get word out on this project is I'm shooting a lot of video, putting together sort of travel logs on video and posting them to my social media and my website. I really want people to sign up for my newsletter, and the newsletter is where you really track this project. So what I'm doing is I'm taking notes at each stop. I did a ton of research before I ever did this. I mean, I've read 30 or 40 books on college football, and I got probably another 20 or 30 to go. So it's a little bit of each. I'm experiencing the thing. I'm taking notes. It's a little bit like a campaign trail book if you're a reporter following a presidential campaign. The college football season's a bit of a 4-month campaign, so I'm doing a bit of it all as I go.
Well, listen, Mark, all the best. Thanks for making time for us, and we can't wait to read the book.
Hey, Paul, I really appreciate you having me on. I love your college football audience and your show, so I hope we can get back together down the road.